halkani waa Somali High News Duck. This is Somali High News. Election day is upon us on November 5th, 2000. We have Judge Green. Judge, welcome.
Thank you.
How long have you been a judge in Franklin County Municipal Court?
I've been on the bench a little over 18 years now. It's been a good number of years.
I understand that you serve, you've been contested 3 different elections, and this is your 4th.
That's correct. Yeah, I was appointed by Ohio governors in 1995. I had to run that year to keep the seat because all state court judges hold 6-year terms.
Okay.
And you have a 6-year term unless you've been appointed to fulfill what's called an unexpired term. And so I was appointed by the governor to fill a 1-year unexpired term. I had to run that year in order to keep the seat. So I ran that year for a 6-year term, again in 2001, again in 2007, and now I'm running again in 2013 for my 4th 6-year term.
Hopefully. What kind of a section of law are you in? Are you in more civil or criminal law?
I am in the Franklin County Municipal Court. And what that means for your viewers is that we handle traffic cases, anything from a speed, stop sign, red light, to a no operator's license, driving under a suspended license, driving under the influence of alcohol and or drugs, vehicular homicide. If you commit a traffic offense and somebody dies, it's called a vehicular homicide. So we deal with all those sorts of traffic matters. We also handle criminal cases, anything from a theft, maybe from a merchant or from an individual, to an assault. We deal with a lot of domestic violence cases. We deal with a lot of prostitution and soliciting cases.
Okay.
We deal with small drug offenses and small weapons offenses. That's on the criminal side. And then we also handle civil cases where people are involved in a dispute over money or property. So we handle a lot of landlord and tenant disputes. We handle a lot of credit card disputes, a lot of contract disputes. You go to purchase an item and you don't pay for it and the merchant sues you, we'll handle those kind of cases. Anything where money or property is involved, where the amount involved is not over $15,000, those civil cases are handled in the municipal court.
Okay. Speaking of property, unfortunately, you see a lot of Somalis who sign up a lease, and most likely they don't understand that lease, the commitment of that lease. How often do you see that kind of cases where they...
I'm starting to see it more and more because what I'm starting to see now is that a lot of Somalis are coming in and they're not abiding by the terms of the contract because they're telling me once they get to court, they never read the contract and they didn't understand what the terms were, especially on the issue of interest that's involved.
Yes.
So that's becoming more and more an issue.
Speaking of Somalis, how often do they end up at your court?
When you say how often,
But more of a traffic issues, domestic issues?
probably see more Somalis coming in on traffic issues than anything else. We do have folks coming in on landlord and tenant disputes where there's a dispute over the lease. I'm starting to see more and more coming in on credit card and other commercial disputes where, like I say, they entered a contract to purchase the car, to purchase the furniture, to purchase the house, and they discover later that there was some interest amount involved with the contract that they didn't understand at the time.
Okay.
And I'm hearing increasingly more and more that the religion does not prohibit the payment of interest.
Which is true.
Well, it becomes a problem if you enter agreement, you get the benefit of the agreement, you get the car, you get the furniture, you get the clothes, or you get the house, and then you later decide that you do not want to be in that contract because you don't like its terms, then somehow we need to work towards educating folks. Do not sign the contract unless you've read it. And even after reading it, still do not sign it unless you agree to its terms. And if someone is approaching a merchant who presents a contract to them and they don't understand it, that instead of signing it anyway, just to get the goods or the merchandise, they should refuse to sign it until somebody can read it to them and explain it to them. And that will keep them from coming to court later in many, many cases.
As you notice, many Somalis do have a language challenge, unfortunately. Is there any way maybe we can create a court document to be interpreted in Somali? For instance, we have the BMP, we have a Somali section, where you might have a Latino section and English section. Is there any way we can go that kind of route where we can have a court documentation such as subpoenas in Somali in the future? Do you see that?
You know, we have translated some documents into Somali.
Okay.
Probably not enough. And that's where I experience a lot of frustration. Because I'd like to see Somali advocates at the courthouse to help the justice system better understand how we can serve that portion of our community. Somalis are here. They've been welcomed into the country. They're welcome to stay and integrate into American culture, but there's going to have to be some education that goes along with that so that they're not fighting against the laws of the land, as they say.
That's true.
Have you ever heard the expression, when in Rome, do as the Romans do? Yeah. Yes. If I go to Somali for a visit, I can't go over there expecting to be treated under American laws. I have to go over there and be expected to be treated under Somali law.
Yes.
And so there needs to be better education. We can make some accommodations, but there needs to be a better education and better understanding. And therein lies some of my frustration as well. I do not know any Somali lawyers. And I'm thinking, if I were Somalian, and I went through college, and I went through law school, and I became licensed to practice law, the good that I could do for my community, it would be tremendous. It would be lucrative too.
It would be.
It could be a great business because Somalis would probably come running to my office knowing that I can speak the language, I understand the culture, and I'm going to be an advocate because I don't want to see them abused in the justice system. So, you know, as I talk to more and more Somalis, and I teach over at Columbus State,
Oh, it's going to come to that.
and I see Somalians on campus, and now I'm starting to pull them over. Hey, you ever thought about going to law school? You know, when you graduate from here and you go on and get your bachelor's degree, why don't you think about going on to law school? And if anyone wants to ever spend time with me and talk about that process, how to get into and how to get through law school, I would welcome that opportunity to meet with whomever and share my experience in the hopes that maybe I could be an encouragement to them.
Absolutely. I noticed you put high priority on education.
Yes.
And you also, how long you been teaching at Columbus State?
25 years. I don't look that old, do I?
Absolutely.
I didn't think so.
No, sir.
I didn't think so.
You just mentioned Somali students to be more in the law firms. Now, would you encourage them? Do you normally encourage them when you see one?
Oh,
Especially young
absolutely.
ladies?
Absolutely. I saw about 2 or 3 young ladies back in the spring semester. And they were hanging out at the library, just talking, I think taking a break from their studies.
Right.
And so I approached them, I introduced myself, and we had a nice little conversation, and they didn't know how to take me initially, because they didn't know why I was approaching them.
Right.
And when I told them I was a professor there, told them that I was a sitting judge, then they kind of relaxed a little bit. And then we had a really good conversation, and I think they appreciated the little time that we spent talking about issues.
Speaking of educating the community, in what ways would you advise us how do we educate our own when it comes to law to fit in American law?
You know, you would be surprised that if an invitation were to be extended to law professors, college professors, judges, and other elected officials, I bet you'd be surprised who'd be willing to come out and do a presentation for a group if you wanted us to. I know I would be willing to do that. Absolutely, I would.
Perhaps we might invite the community leaders and maybe take advantage and encourage
Absolutely.
the youngsters and also elders.
I could teach them on certain basic legal subjects that everybody needs to know, whether it's traffic laws, certain landlord and tenant laws. You know, I could do a little course, a little mini course and just kind of teach some of the basics that everybody operating in the United States should know.
I've actually seen many taxi, as you noticed, since you work on the courts, you have many Somalis who drive a lot of cabs,
Yes.
who might not understand where to park, let's say at the arena or so. Have you seen such cases where they might there's misunderstanding where they could receive a ticket?
Well, I do. I see a lot of those instances because if I am a cab driver and I am looking for a fare to pick up because they've called for a ride and they're at one of the restaurants, one of the nightclubs, one of the sporting venues in the Arena District, in the Short North, German Village, or wherever, chances are the best place for me to find them is in the front of the building or the front of the business. But the cab stands may be elsewhere. They may be in another location.
Oh,
And I know if I go to that other location where the cab stands are, the person that called for a ride, they're never going to find me. So what do? I pull up in front of the business. A person waves their hand to let me know that they called for a cab, and I'm going to have to stop my cab for them to get in. Well, now I'm stopping in an area where there are signs that say, no stopping, no parking, no whatever.
yeah.
And if there's law enforcement officers around, I face a strong possibility that they're going to pull me over and give me a citation for violating a traffic law. And all I'm trying to do is to pick up my fare and earn a living.
Which
I'm not trying to hold up traffic.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to cause problems for any pedestrians. I'm not trying to get into any conflicts with the police. I'm simply trying to earn a living. And I see those cases coming in.
Which it happens more often, unfortunately. I've actually seen many people complaining about that. Well, Judge Green, good luck for this since November 5th. Hopefully that's Judge Green, and we should go out. And this kind of case, they affect our livelihood in the city, and we should definitely benefit this kind of individual, and we should vote for this kind of individual. Thank you, S.O.N. Farhan.